What up, world? It's your boy Big Willie, aka the Pac Mac. Oh my goodness, how are y'all doing on this wonderful day today? I hope y'all are having a blessed day. As always, I am blessed and happy to see you. Oh, so several times this past week, I've had a handful of a handful of buddies of mine, like my buddy at GameStop and Um, one of our buddies who's been playing for a long time, well, who played a long time ago and is getting back into the game. And others have been asking me, like, so what's the best format to play? And it's a variable depending on where you're at and what your main goal of the game is. Like, this is a very, very big discussion. So I'm like, I might have to split this up into two parts because there is a lot to talk about. But the biggest thing, like rule number one, um, hopefully you got some locals or a local game store to play at. See what they roll over there. You know what I'm saying? See what your local people run. You know what I'm saying? Like me mainly, I run Commander for the most part as far as like casual play. And then we get like other things for me. Like I have a modern deck. I have the ability to build a couple of modern decks, and I might have to like invest a little bit here and there. So I'll get ready for like any big modern tournament. I do have a popper deck, and I also I'm a heavy proponent of limited. Period, but I know a lot of these words are out of most like lame to magic people, and I would like to let everyone know about that. Things I don't really mess with. I don't really mess with CEDH as much. Not that I can't. I just don't at the moment. That's a whole nother analogy that I'm gonna have to get on my own time rather than get on this time because it's a thing. Everyone has their things. Everyone has their quirks, which is why like that's the beauty of Commander. It's involved so much. Not everyone plays it the same way, but everyone plays it the same way. It makes no sense and the most sense at the same time. It's weird. It's weird. I love it. But I want to go over some of these terms for everyone and try to get everyone on the same page, so that they at least know, hey, look, this is the difference between each format, and this is why people play each format because there's a lot going on in this game. This game has been going on for over 30 years, and it's ever evolving. It doesn't have any signs of stopping anytime soon. Yes, even with all the crap that happened a couple weeks ago, like there's no sign of it stopping. Like things are gonna happen. This game's gonna evolve. This game's gonna get better, and we're gonna go over the gist of most of it today, and then talk a little bit more on it on Wednesday as well. So we're gonna do something, and it's gonna be something cool. And I really hope that um, you suggest this to like if you are into the game and you play the game. I hope you suggest this to people that you're trying to get into the game because the goal is it really is all about the gathering. I'm not just saying that as it's my channel's main focus catchphrase, but it really is all about the gathering. It's really all about you and the people you play with, and y'all are having a good time playing this game. Like I cannot stress that enough. If you're not having fun playing this game, why are you playing this game? Period. You know, even as a job, like if it ain't bringing you joy, what's the point? Um, but let's go ahead and get into it and explains reasons that are good, reasons that are bad, and just try to get the gist of it down in two videos and see if we can do right by y'all. Either way it goes, hey, be sure to leave a comment down below, like and subscribe. It really, really helps the channel. If you have any deck tech ideas, I'm always taking them. But either way it goes, hit me up, holla at your boy, and let's get on with the video. So check this out. I went and looked on the Wizard site, and they do have some good little explanations of formats. But I saw somebody that summarized it here on aetherhub.com, and that is Geno Slugs. Shout out to Geno Slugs. We're gonna use your article as a quick, like, just something to back me up on explaining all these formats. Now, there is pretty much most of the formats are considered into two different types: constructed versus limited. Constructed formats is, hey, like you have your deck before you even show up to the event, while limited formats are where you build on the spot. Personally speaking, I am a limited player first and foremost. I love playing limited. Biggest reason why I like playing limited is because I'm playing against your luck and your skill. I am playing against I'm not playing against your wallet, and as you know, as I've always said, I'm a hustler at these things. I try to hustle all my stuff, try to work my way around and get deals and stuff. But hey, limited formats, you ain't gotta sit there and worry about doing the hustle and the grind. You just sit there and you just do the time and show up and show out. So let's go ahead and get started talking about limited. There is player build decks out of cards open from the packs. Decks must at least be 40 cards, including basic lands. You may add any number of basic lands to the deck. That's the real big exception. Is basic lands are the only like outside additions, and you can only add the main five basic lands, which is plains, islands, swamps, mountains, and forests. Those are for the five different colors of Magic. There is a sixth basic land, but it only shows up every now and then. And when it does show up in that format, you have to draft them. Just let you know. They're 1v1 games, although there is a whole nother format unlimited, which I'll explain on another date. That is a multiplayer format that is still a limited format. And then players start the game with 20 lives. All right, so sealed. Don't like what they said here because you can do sealed with or without a pre-release pack. Pre-release packs are one way to do it, while the other way to do it is straight up with 6 booster packs. 6 preferably play booster or draft boosters. Set boosters don't really work for this, so you use those packs, and whatever you get in those packs is what you use. Besides basic lands, you get them all together, build at least a minimum 40 card deck, and then you wait for pairings. It's really tough. With the 6 packs, you get like a very mixed hodgepodge of cards. But honestly, with sealed and with draft, which is the other form unlimited, um, these will teach you to be a better deck builder than just about anything because you got to do it on the fly. You got to really evaluate cards, and honestly, like I said, it's one of my favorite ways of playing. It's a real good way to test your skill as well as a real good way to just test everything that's going out. Booster draft, similar situation, except for instead of getting 6 packs, you get 3 packs. But the thing is, you draft them like you're drafting like fantasy football players. You open up a pack, you pick one card out of the pack, and that card is yours. Then you pass it around. It's usually in a group of 8 people minimum. Like I think the minimum has varies, but it's usually 8. 8's a good pod because that way you at least get to see your pack twice. And so you open up your pack and you got 14, 15 cards in there. Pick one card out, pass the rest. Somebody else is passing to you. You keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going until all 3 packs are done. And then with those cards and basic lands, you build a 40 card deck. So honestly, with the difference between like the two, with sealed, you've got 6 packs of stuff to work with. Booster draft, you only got 3 packs of stuff to work with, but it's like you're choosing one card out of all these packs. So it's a way to either focus up or, you really got to think on the fly. You got your mental mind will get tested and limited a lot more than you think. But that is pretty much limited to a nutshell. There's another form of limited that really hasn't been a big thing that I'm trying to make into a big thing, which is limited commander. I'll explain that a whole nother day because that deserves its own video by itself, but it is a great, great thing to do and a great, great way to learn about limited. Now, constructed formats is mainly every other format in Magic in general, save for maybe Commander. Now, most constructed formats you'll see, the general rules are Two players. They're usually 1v1 matches, 60 card decks with the optional 15 card sideboard, depending on the format. Um, Up to 4 copies of a card, unless if the card is restricted, or if the card says you could have multiples. There is cards like that says you could have any number of them as you want. There also is cards that says you can only have like 1 or 2 copies of the card. They're very rarely like that's a rare thing. And then sometimes cards are like definitely restricted where it says, hey, it's restricted. I mean, like the rules will say it's restricted. And that you'll have to like really like go over to like some of the ban lists and Google it real quick to find out. 90% chance if you're playing in a format that has restricted a list in there. It's an older format, and you pretty much know what you're getting into. Players usually start with 20 lives. There's really no free mulligans. Mulligans are where if you open up and you start out and look at your hand, if your hand, there's really no free mulligans in pretty much every format except for Commander, depending on your Commander group. Um, but no free mulligans. So that means you can't. Whenever you open your hand and you see your hand, if it's a bad hand, you got to reshuffle it. And there's a whole bunch of there's a rule about it depending on where you're at. The main rule that has been going on is what's called known as the London Mulligan, where you each time you have to shuffle your hand back in, you shuffle up, present to cut. Draw your new 7, and then for each time you had the mulligan, you got to put one of those cards in your opening 7 back to the bottom of your deck. And you got to repeat that for every time you've done that. So, like, if you've done it 3-4 times, you got to do it 3-4 times. It's just the way it is. In the same round. And then usually it's a player draw first. In all 1v1s, it's whoever doesn't go first gets to draw on their first turn. Otherwise, it's either play first or draw first. That's really what it is. Standard is the one that has what's known as a rotation. It's there can be best of 1 or best of 3, but standard is the current usually like the current past 3 years of Magic, and there is every I want to say around like September, October, whatever set that is where rotation happens every time in Standard. It's also the most played format in MTG Arena. Arena is worth it to play Standard, and Standard is trying to get a resurgence back in paper. So it's something that you may want to look into if you're trying to chase tournaments. They are doing a lot more Standard support as far as it goes, as far as local game stores go. We got there's a ban list in Standard, but it's like a very rare ban list that happens. Usually one card will get like pretty ridiculous and it'll be banned in Standard, but it's rare when things are getting banned in Standard. Now, there's other formats such as Pioneer, Modern, Vintage, and Legacy. Each one of those formats are what are known as eternal formats. So, Pioneer is everything from the Return to Ravnica set on forward. Modern is everything from 8th edition on forward. There's also some exceptions from Modern and Pioneer, because Pioneer, like all the Modern Master sets and Modern Horizon sets, aren't available in Pioneer unless if they were printed in that Pioneer format. Same thing with a lot of the universes beyond, such as Lord of the Rings, as well as the recent Assassin's Creed. But those cards are legal in Modern. Okay. Legacy uses all sets. There's some special some special like rule exceptions as far as Legacy goes, but just about every card is available in Legacy and in Vintage. But Vintage, most of the stuff that's banned in Legacy is restricted in Vintage. Getting into Legacy and Vintage is definitely going to be a task. Of the five constructed formats, personally speaking, if you've got a group of people that you know that are playing these, they should be able to help you, and or they like you should like honestly like research the cost of some of the stuff, because like some legacy decks and the vintage decks especially, like you either gotta have like you know good like you gotta your money gotta run long like for real, because like some of these cards are just they get a little pricey, just saying. Modern and Pioneer, it is kind of a lot easier to jump into those in comparison, because most of these are mostly recent stuff. Thanks to stuff like Modern Horizons sets that have been coming out, especially for Modern specifically. Like a lot of the cards that you need are kind of in these Modern Horizon sets, and they're pretty readily available as far as Modern Horizons 3 and Modern Horizons 2 goes. And, like, besides, like, certain little pieces here and there, it's a very good option to get into. Pioneer, also a very good option to get into. I really hope that they make a Pioneer, like, master set or do, like, more Pioneer decks coming forward if they want to try to push that format a little bit more. But otherwise, um, standard is getting a resurgence in paper. It's a really good idea. Now, the next thing we got to get into is Popper. Popper is the only format that cares about rarity specifically. Popper is really, 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 really cool, because in order to play Popper, it's all commons. Now, it does seem like that is like a cheap thing to do, but it also is not as cheap as you think it is. But it also is like if you really want to be relevant at Popper, it's not. But if it's like, I mean, it is. It's everything's a common, and you could use anything that if it's been reprinted at a higher rarity, you can still use it if it's ever been printed as a common, and then the same thing vice versa. Because some cards that are rares have been downshifted to common, so as long as it has a common printing in a regular set, it is Popper legal. Popper is a little bit more of a rare format to find out about. Um, Check your local game stores, check your play group. Like your play group should be trying to help guide you into which way to go if you have a play group. If you don't have a play group, man, holla, reach out. Like there's a lot of people. Now, multiplayer formats. Let's get to the big elephant in the room. The biggest one currently is Commander/EDH. Now, coolest thing about this is, bare minimum. Like you can play it 2 player, you can play it 3 player, you can play it 4 player, you can play it 6 players, you can play it 10 players, depending on how y'all feel and what y'all are doing, how long this game is going to take. Because Commander games can go for a short amount of time, or it could go for a while. And by a while, I do mean a while, a while. But Commander decks is 100 card decks built around a legendary creature and or planeswalker. Um, Certain planeswalkers will say it if they can be used as a commander. So, like, that's one of the biggest things. But your commander determines the colors of your deck. If that color symbol is anywhere in the card's cost or in the card's main text box, and it has to be the color symbols, you can use it. You can use any of those colors for that commander. um, I don't know if he has some examples on here, or if they have some examples on this page, but I can show you some examples of some other ones on a supplemental video. Um, but no more than one copy of each card aside from basic land. So, um, island, swamps, mountains, forests, plains, and wastes. Wastes is the sixth basic land that I mentioned earlier. But you could have multiples of those, and any card that says you could have X amount of copies of it in the deck, you can run multiples of those. Good example, Dragon's Approach. Also, Slime Against Humanity, Seven Dwarves, Brothers Yamazaki. Like most of those all say like you can run multiples. And with that, you can run multiples in Commander. But otherwise, that you can only run one of. Everything's got to be one copy of each. Um, Players start with 40 life. It says one free mulligan, but Commander is more of a casual format, unless if you're at a specific tournament or anything. Talk to your play group. Each play group runs differently. Me personally, I'm not. I'm cool. Run free mulligans. Like Commander is supposed to be fun, and I don't want you to have a bad game. I want you to at least be able to do something. The starting player, everybody draws initially, so going first is not really like a big deal as far as like you're not being able to draw. You get to draw regardless, and any card is legal, just about except for certain ban cards. Now there is some fair exceptions to the far as like any card is legal, like the silver bordered cards. Some people are against those. Once again, that's a whole. The big thing about Commander, it's a social format. Talk with your play group. You and your play group should be communicating and discussing. That's why there's the Rule Zero conversation. Have that Rule Zero conversation beforehand. Personally speaking, I really love playing Summon the Pack. It's my pet card. I'm the Pack Mac, you know? Um, so I try to have that running in a lot of my decks that run black. I could run Rise of the Dark Realms or Breach the Multiverse or something instead, but I'd rather run some of the pack. It's funner. It's a fun card and it's awesome, but not everybody is all down with that. But because it is silver bordered, a lot of people, a lot of old heads don't care for silver bordered, and I get it to an extent, but it's just like, like Commander's was meant to be fun. It's meant to be fun. Um, Here are some examples of some commanders: Lyra Dawnbringer, Teferi Temporal Archmage. Um, the commanders start out in the command zone. It's a specific area where you can, as soon as you're able to cast it, you can cast it. It's like kind of in your hand, but it's not in your hand. Whenever the commander dies, it goes back into the command zone and it gets what's known as a commander tax, where it costs 2 extra for each time it has left the battlefield and went back to the command zone. Specifically, went back to the command zone. Some people want their commander in their graveyards. Understandable. Um, there used to be the tuck rule, where like a lot of people used to love to like play stuff like put return target creature to the bottom of target player's library. There's stuff like that. The rule has changed to where now if the commander is put anywhere from off the battlefield, the commander's owner can choose to put it back in the command zone instead of putting it wherever it says. So, a lot of people don't want like to tuck their commander in the deck, especially if they really like playing their commander. And commander, you should want to play your commander. We'll talk more about that on another date as well. Um, there's stuff about the color identity, which is one of the things that I was going over just a minute ago. Like, hey, look, if it doesn't have those symbols anywhere on the text and on top of your cost of your commander, you cannot run those. So, for instance, with these 2 examples that they have above, you can only run cards with white symbols. You can't run cards with multicolored symbols. You can only run cards with white symbols or no symbols. That's the rule because that's the commander. Same thing for Teferi. You can only run blue cards with blue symbols or cards without them. You can't run red symbol cards, for instance. It's the rule. Like that's like kind of like the beauty of Commander. Each of your commanders, like you kind of want to determine, hey, look, this is what I can do. Um, we spoke about the command zone. It's a multiplayer gameplay. It's a last man standing. Um, and you can sit there and keep going. There's a lot of stuff about Commander that's really, like I said, once again, it's a very social format. Um, Politics definitely comes into play. Hey, look, this guy is really being the big bad. We need to do something about him. It happens because some people can end up taking the game very, very quickly, And that's the fun thing about Commander that really like I like it. I like it a lot for the politics things. But there's a 1v1 Commander, which is like, it's a variable as far as the rules go, as far as like the 30 or 40 life. 1v1 Commander is a little bit more grindier, um, but hey, it's fun too. Now, there's Brawl, which I really don't see Brawl being played in paper as much. I do see it on Arena a lot. Um, Brawl definitely does. It's like standard, and there's 60 card decks instead of 100 card decks. Players are 30 life instead of 40 life. It's usually a 1v1. You can use regular planeswalkers as your commander as well. Um, there's Arcane Signet and Command Tower is legal regardless. Um, Whole big deal with that. I don't really see that being played in paper, and that's not really supported as much in paper. It's more of a arena thing and maybe on a Magic Online thing. All right, we also got two-headed giant. Two-headed giant. Whenever you get a chance to play two-headed giant, it's so fun. It's 2v2s. You take your turns simultaneously as a team. Um, each player has their like separate, but they're also like the same. It's crazy. Um, so like it's really there's a bunch of rules for it as well, but most of them will be explained if you're ever in a two-headed giant thing. Now, Arena is I've mentioned that a lot. MTG Arena. It's the app that you can use on the phone that you can also use on tablets and computers. Um, Arena is one of my biggest proponents. I tell people first and foremost, if you're really learning how to play this game and you really want to get into this game, um, download Arena and run through the tutorials. It will get you through the basics. No matter what format you're wanting to play, it will get you through the basics. It will give you a gist of how this game is played in general. Now, with that in mind, Arena is also part of the reason that like standard isn't as prevalent as far as in paper because Arena came out a little bit before the pandemic and everything, and um, a lot of people that played paper standard, like the pandemic was like pretty much the death knell to it, kind of, sort of, which is why they're trying to get it back into prominence. But also, Arena is a real big reason why it's not in prominence as well as far as paper goes, because a lot of people just would rather play it on Arena than, go back into the grind. But they're trying to bring the grind back, and I can't wait. I'm excited for it. Maybe I'll jump into it. I'm sitting there thinking about it because I still buy cards, so you know. Let's see. For Arena, we have standard, of course. We have Explorer, which is um, pretty much Arena's version of Pioneer. There's a couple different cards. Not all of the Pioneer cards are released, but for the most part, there's a whole big rundown on it, at their links here. They also have Historic, which is a more non-rotating digital format that only exists as a digital format. Um, and then there's the one thing I really don't like about Arena, and that's me personally. It's a personal thing. You know, Alchemy, which are cards that will never be printed. Well, I would say never be printed in paper, but never say never. Big wrestling guy, never say never. Because recently in Mystery Boosters 2, some of these Alchemy cards have been printed. Um, but they are mostly like they conjure up cards. Stuff that like you really wouldn't see in actual paper because it's weird, like it's different, it's digital only for the most part, but it's a big thing. um they're gonna go to the conclusion, but I'm gonna go ahead and give you a conclusion myself. The biggest thing is no matter what format you want to play in Magic, there should be people to help you, and besides that, there's also the app. the Arena app, as well as Magic Online. Magic Online is a little bit more of an older client. Um, so keep that in mind. And like, it's a little bit more, like, I would say if you're more seasoned at the game, maybe look into Magic Online. Magic Online, you can play all of the other paper formats such as Pioneer, Modern, Legacy, and Vintage over there on Magic Online. It's a whole ordeal and deal to do that, but it's also very relevant to do that as well. One of the things that they didn't mention on here is Cube Draft. Cube Draft is a rare occurrence. If you know people that have a cube, I would highly suggest trying it out because it's a good way to learn about drafting in general. And the cost is cheaper because you don't get to keep none of the cards. It's all Phantom because it's all part of this person's cube. There are also other variations and formats as well. That's one of the biggest beauties of this card game is the longer this game is going, the more it has evolved. There are so many more people that play different types of formats. Like, I didn't even mention CDH as far as this part of the video goes. And that's more of a like, hey, competitive, hey, we're trying to really do the best and get the best out of Commander. And like, this game is beautiful. This game is expansive. There's so much you can learn from this game. But either way it goes, hey, it's your boy Big Willie. Please like, comment, subscribe. If this helped you at all, please let me know. If this didn't help you at all, please let me know. Because like, the whole purpose of this video was to explain all these formats and let you know, hey, this is a little taste of what you got. What you're getting into, and then there's also a lot more to it. But please, if you have people or know people, talk to them about it. If you talk to me about it, my comments are open. Please leave me a comment, say something. I would really like for you to get into this game and find a way to play this game. Either way it goes, hey, it's your boy Big Willie, aka the Pac Mac. As always, it is all about the gathering. Real talk. Holla at your boy.